Hello and welcome back to the podcast. It has been a bit of a while, but we have all been very busy. We're going to get into that in this episode. We're having a bit of a catch up. But before we dive into the nitty gritty, how are you doing, Craig?
Yeah, good, thank you. It's nice and sunny outside, which I know makes most people happy, but being Scottish, it's just not for me. If it gets over 10 degrees, I'm in trouble. So I've had to hide indoors tonight and stay away from that thing outside called sun. But no, life was good, busy away. Got a missing tooth, just for everyone to see. Managed to knock it out of soft play. So that's all joys and a nice bill from the dentist to get that sorted in a couple of weeks' time. But no, good. You guys?
I'm doing all right, mate. Yeah, busy with lots of stuff going on, and we'll dive into some of that later on. I haven't knocked any teeth out yet, but there's time for me yet this week. How are you doing, Richard?
Very well, thanks, mate. It's nice to see two familiar faces. Seems like it's been a while, but as you say, everyone's been kind of busy doing stuff, and I don't know where the year's gone. I mean, it seemed like not 5 minutes ago when we were right deep into the design kind of stuff that we were doing. Then we were looking at earthing and bonding, and then Christmas came, and then it's just come kind of super quick. We spoke about apprenticeships and stuff like that in the last one, didn't we? That was really good. But yeah, it's just I don't know where the time's gone. It's just busy, lots going on. But it's nice to see the sun. I like the sun, unlike Craig, and I haven't lost any teeth either yet. But you never know.
You've got an even more interesting background than me in a rowing boat behind you there. Is that Luke and his dad with a pint of lager?
Yeah, like that. Yeah, I like to bring something fresh to the table. Thought you'd like that. Yeah, me and Dave saw them last night. They were out in London having a couple of beers, and we thought, well, why not? It's all good, yeah. Yeah, I can't keep the boat going. I got to think of something new this year.
Yeah, well, I'll be back on that slow boat soon. So I'm going over again to Ireland. I think is it in December, November, something like
November,
that.
yeah. Looking forward to that. Yeah,
Charlotte's
invited us again over. So
be on the slow
boat.
boat.
You're getting hot tub this time. Get your trunks this time, mate.
That's it. I need to try and get an extra day over there, like you guys did. That was a sensible play. So I'll try and do a bit of that. But I mean, yeah, there has been a lot going on. It seems like 5 minutes since we put the clocks forward, and it was still dark and freezing, and now here we are, like glorious sunshine. It's still light outside. It's 8 o'clock. Life is good when the world's like that. And you had your event down in London, Richard, that unfortunately I couldn't get down to. So apologies again on that one. That's twice I've missed it, which was a bit going. But we just had such a lot going on up here. But from the looks of it, it was a cracking event.
Yeah, it was really, really good. The speakers are really good. The quick 5-minute round at the end, I was involved in, Craig O'Neill, Charlotte, and a few others. I thought, well, I'm never going to be able to do that in 5 minutes because I can talk for hours, as you know. But everyone kind of nailed it to within a few seconds, which is quite difficult to do. But it's just an overview and give people an idea of other bits and pieces that are going on within industry. I spoke a little bit about our investigation into types of RCDs and the effects of DC leakage, or are there any effects? We don't really know because you can't measure it properly. So I spoke a little bit about the current work that we're doing with that. I was up at Bender, UK, Monday, which is quite a jaunt from me. It's right up in the Lake District, and they're a manufacturer of specialist monitoring equipment, clamps, and all that type of stuff. And we're working with them to put together some different kits that we can put on installations that can measure any DC leakage over a set period of time. So we tried various ways. We tried to measure even and odd harmonics, and he was very kind in helping us with that part of the investigation, Mark. And we tried other ways in the office. We've got an oscilloscope and added various components to, an AC waveform and seen how it changed the waveform and all that. But you can't replicate what it is that we're trying to measure. Unfortunately, nobody makes a clamp that can measure low enough without magnetic interference and all the rest of it, but Bender do, which is quite interesting. So, yeah, I was up there Monday. It was a bit of a jaunt in the day, but hopefully we're going to put together some bits and pieces of kit that we can either measure individual circuits or the complete installation. The problem is measuring the complete installation at the tails, for instance, is that you've got to think about the capacitive leakage at the load, which can affect the measurement that we're trying to measure. And unfortunately, unless you've got accurate qualitative and quantitative data, we can't really use the data. So got a couple of options, but that's what we're looking to do. So we'll be coming all leaning on you again, mate, to put some of this kit in your house for a week or so, if possible, because you've got lots of low carbon technologies going on, and USB sockets and LED lights and all sorts of fancy stuff. And we'll see where it takes us. But ultimately, looking to see really what the effects are, if any, on RCDs. Does it cause them to stop working? Is it a safety concern? Does it cause them to, delay the operation outside of the maximum times that were allowed in the regs, or does it not really do anything? So we don't really know, but hopefully that's going to be quite interesting moving forward. But it's a massive thing to do. But someone's got to do it again, because there's thousands of Type A CRCDs that are out there, aren't there, within many installations, and even boiler manufacturers are stating that you've got to have a Type A. But why? And so yeah, it's quite interesting, that. So yeah.
And it's an interesting trend, because obviously I get you on about AC RCDs there, but just in general, I've not read a lot about it, but I've seen, like certain manufacturers bringing out now heat pump specific RCDs and this, that, and I just wonder, A, do we need them at that level, or is it a marketing ploy? Because I know there's some discrepancy between what manufacturers will say should be in and shouldn't be in, and whether there's any guidance and whether there's not. Or should we now just be maybe at a point of Type B being a standard RCD? I don't know. I don't know how that sits, but it is a interesting area to be looking at, I think, and it'll be interesting to see what the outcome is from that situation, definitely.
Yeah, I think heat pumps is the ones that kind of driving that, isn't it? Because there seems to be some manufacturers that are especially leaky, I guess, on the DC side in terms of what they're putting back into the AC system, and other manufacturers have not got a problem. So you wonder if this is like a case of, I raised a post on LinkedIn actually about this, if white goods manufacturers and heat pump manufacturers are scrimping on materials in their products, causing this excessive leakage that we've then got to deal with in the fixed wire inside. So I don't know if there's elements of that, or that's just a misreading and it's totally unavoidable, and this switchgear has to evolve to kind of best manage it. And for any trainees and learners who are listening along and aren't quite sure what that is, it's blinding of RCDs, essentially what we're talking about. So DC gets in there and they don't see the earth leakage that they're looking for because of that. So we have to have RCDs that work in a different way. So they get called type B, type F. There's probably other iterations of them coming as well that we don't even know about yet, where they can see that earth leakage fault even with excessive amounts of DC on the circuit. Unless I've totally mullered that, guys, I think that's how it works.
Yeah, no, it does, and it's to do with the components inside of the RCD, isn't it, and the sensitivity of what they can deal with. So each type of RCD has a slightly bit more technology and a different tolerance to it to allow it to handle that and deal with that, supposedly, because again, it's not being tested. It's like an AFDD argument again, I suppose, isn't it, about do they benefit or do they not? But I think Beamer put some guidance out about it a while ago, didn't they, about this? And it's interesting to see how we evolve. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we're blurring the lines between wiring regs and product standards as a general concept in industry at the minute. And like you say, are we having to do too much specifying as installers now, or designers, whatever we may be, versus actually there should be an element of guidance? Because that was, I think, when car chargers first came out, wasn't it? There was always a recommendation of the RCD being installed at the board, and it needed to be a Type A and not an AC, even when AC chargers, AC RCDs were still relevant. So is it that we need some of this emerging technology? We know for no reason to any wiring regulations or committees at all fault, because these things take a long time and they're driven by international committees, which is a life cycle we have to go. Should manufacturers now be doing more to help us with these situations?
Yeah, I think that's where the research that Richard and the team are doing at ESF is really useful, because as you said at the start, Rich, we don't really have the data to even know what's going on, do we? If you're doing that, at least it's like a third party set of eyes looking at it, rather than taking either a switchgear manufacturer or an equipment manufacturer's word on something. You can do sampling, you can see exactly what's going on. And then we can make an informed choice, because if we start fitting type B RCDs as standard, or RCBOs, then our consumer units and distribution boards are going to become many times more expensive. That's the hard reality behind it.
Yeah, and the other consideration is that potentially then you've got thousands and thousands of dangerous installations, or a person that's carrying out a periodic inspection and test might code a type A CRCD instantly as a C2 for no other reason that there's bits of equipment in that installation that could potentially underload, inject DC back, but you've got no way of measuring it. So how do you know? So you can't just blankly say, that's potentially dangerous based on what? Do you know what I mean? If you could measure it and there's a set level in the regs that says if it's above this level, blah, 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 that's fair enough. But that data is not available to us. It could be the case that any DC will affect a type AC, and therefore it is a problem. Like, they have been banned in Germany and other countries for quite a while, type AC, but there's thousands of them still out there in installation. So we don't know, do we?
And they're banned, and people use that as a rule. And we look at that and you go, what we have to think about, there's different voltages, different frequencies, different tolerances. It might not be the DC leakage that's the reason why they got banned. I don't know enough about it personally. Because people say, well, AFDDs have been in Germany for the last 10 years. But again, they operate differently. We understand that with AFDDs, there's a voltage issue, there's a tolerance. That's why they're only on socket circuits, not on lighting circuits. They can't work ISO. So we could be guilty of looking at it too narrow-mindedly and going, well, it's C2, and like you say, with no evidence. To me, I don't mind putting my neck out there, the RCD, I would have as a C3 all day, because I have no evidence to say that that's definitely a fault. I understand it's likely to be a problem, but is it posing any more risk of electric shock at that exact time than it was, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? And I would potentially happily sit there and say, I don't think it is, because it hasn't for however many years before. That doesn't mean I don't think we maybe need to change, because technology and equipment is changing.
Yeah.
But I don't also necessarily agree with the line in the sand that means everything that's ever been done is immediately dangerous.
No, I mean, for a brand new installation, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? Because there's no cost difference between a type AC, whether you can still buy them, or a type A. They are the same price. There's a difference between then an A and an F and a B. They're substantially more expensive, aren't they?
I think a lot of this traces back to the value that's held in a C3, doesn't it? When we're coding, that's for me. That's like, if people actually saw that and did something about it, it wouldn't be a factor, would it? C3 is a fair code for something like that, and then repair work could be done. But we know they just get ignored. Sorry to interrupt you, Richard, but I just thought I'd throw that in there.
No, you're absolutely right. But again, that's down to the inspector to stress the importance of that C3 and what it's for. You are recommending something because it would greatly improve the safety of that installation. You could argue it's a bonus item, and of course it's not immediately dangerous and all the rest of it, or potentially dangerous, but you really need to consider it, because it would definitely add value and improve the safety. So AFDDs aren't required on certain installations, fair enough. But let's say that the customer had the money, and then on your recommendation, because of whatever equipment that might be in there, or there's evidence of rodents or something else, you'd strongly recommend them, give them a C3. And let's say 2-3 years down the line, there was some arcing and a fire resulted from that, and in a court of law, they'd pull out that EICR, and on that you've recommended that they're installed, and you give some reasons for them, and that landlord or duty holder has ignored you, they'd be on a difficult standing to explain to the judge why they didn't take your professional opinion and recommendation on board. And it can't be down to just money. They can't just say, well, we didn't bother because they're 100 quid each. It's a serious recommendation, as long as you back that up with some reasoning for it. I'm not saying just blankly say, yeah, C3 AFDDs on everything, because what's the point? But there might be a valid reason, using your engineering judgment, why you'd strongly recommend them. Or indeed, as you say, replacing that type AC for a type A or a type F or whatever it is. It's all about talking about exactly what it is and why you're recommending it, isn't it? Simple as that.
I think if you're talking to like a duty holder or someone who's running a business, that's an easier conversation to have. The trouble is when it's like domestic homeowner occupiers, they're just not interested to that level, and some of them, no disrespect, technically really able to understand what you're saying. And that's when it becomes a real challenge, because most of these type AC RCDs are in split load boards in residential.
Yeah.
Some still got rewirable fuses, if we're honest. And trying to take consumers on that upgrade path to something that they don't really see value in, because the lights are on, the sockets are working. That's the tricky side to it all, isn't it? And getting landlords to even action basic maintenance is a challenge in the private rental sector. So if we're going to start going around coding all these ACRCDs as C2s, there's the cost burden that they're going to start getting upset about. And then there's the commercial angle that's pushed back on us for coding it in C2. Because they have now suffered all this financial cost of having it replaced. But what was actually potentially dangerous about it? Can you explain that to me? And we're having the argument then in another way around, aren't we?
Yeah. And it does happen. People do use that as an excuse because they just want to replace the board,
Yeah.
So, and then you end up paying, 800 quid, whatever it might be. But actually, there was nothing wrong with it in the first place, So it's a fine balance, isn't it? I agree. Sorry, Craig.
No, I was just saying, how do you determine that? So I moved into a new build that was finished 2 years ago. I've got a split load AC RCD board and there's solar on the roof. And I know they shouldn't be allowed to do that now, but the argument they will have is this development was designed 10 years ago. So they're now not upping their costs and changing their regs.
No.
Because they don't have to. And whilst we go, it's £800 to one board, to a developer with, 25,000 houses under development, all of a sudden that becomes a significant whack in the profit that they had when they done the design. And I don't personally agree with them not changing it up, doing it, but realistically, they're not going to, are they? And how many of these housing developments and things that are going up now have all been designed pre-2022 or, 2018 even in a lot of cases, and they take so long to come through that we have to just work on that. So how long before we actually see, AFDDs coming into new builds? It's probably going to be, another 10, 20 years worth of developments being built, and it realistically, because I struggle with AFDDs now, how you argue for not putting them in, because you go, well, yeah, I know there's 4 places that says we shall do it.
Yeah.
And then it has a note that says it recommends it on all other socket circuits.
Yeah.
Well, how do you say, I ignored the recommendation which says should on the table in the regs now? I ignored what I should have done on a socket circuit when I knew I had no other way of protecting the installation from that type of fault. So therefore, as a designer, how was I complicit or compliant with that? And I don't know how people will have that argument, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it? I think that the hard reality of that is people probably don't even consider it. I've been out to similar solar jobs that you've maybe got in your home, Craig, where there's 4 panels on the roof. They've powered the inverter from a split load board, so it's not even got its own RCD protection. It's sited in the loft with no access to it, no lighting, no real consideration of that. We went out to another one, like 5 minutes from where I'm sat right now, to what was a rent-a-roof type install. And they've put a battery in the loft, which at the time, there was no PAS document, so fair enough. But they've not secured it to anything. They've just sat it on the normal roof timbers right next to the loft hatch. And the ceiling's actually burred where it was sat. That's what led the customer to call somebody to have a look at it. No bird netting under the panels. There's pigeons nested under there. The cables in the loft are all just thrown around. The felt's all perished, I suspect, from when the solar was installed, so it's never been done anyway. So all the while we're batting around the rules and regulations as to if we should fit an AFDD or not, and as diligent designers and installers, it's certainly something I would consider. I think the reality of what's out there in industry is it's not even registering for so many people.
No, and you hit the nail on the head. I have 4 panels on the roof, but I don't have a battery. The inverter is in the loft. The irony is, I'm not allowed to board the loft or store anything in the loft because the joists are not strong enough, but that's where they're fitting inverters.
And that's so common. Yeah, we go and see lots because consumers move in and they want more power than that on the PV system. It's one of the first upgrades they want to try and make, and you're fighting against it And it would be so easy to build your house, I expect, with more panels and inverter somewhere sensible. Wouldn't have been a lot harder, would it? But it's that little margins, as you just alluded to before, Craig, where they don't want to spread that out across 25,000 houses. Just doing it for yours would be an easy thing. So you can see why we end up in these messes. It's like designed to go wrong from the beginning, isn't it? Which is frustrating. But in terms of your actual day job, Craig, to draw it back to some things you've been up to, I've seen some of your posts that you've been popping out of some completed systems that look pretty stunning, to be fair. I actually messaged and said to you the other day to get yourselves nominated in the ECN Awards, because I think you'd win that hands down based on some of the stuff you boys are churning out.
Yeah, it's nice. We're busy in London. We are fortunate that we are still busy in London, because I know lots of other people are not. But we just seem to be going a little bit from strength to strength, which is nice. We are getting busier, we're getting bigger. We seem to be bucking the trend a little bit, but we try and do a good job. We try and do it to the best we can and meet the client's needs and design it properly. And we work with only a couple of clients, but we do more and more with those clients year on year. We don't try and chase everything down. We try and just do a good job for the people we do work with, and it seems to be coming around. I mean, we've done some nice big jobs recently. We finished a building we were in for 2 years. That turned out in a lovely way. That's been positive. We've done a couple more in London. We just had one that we finished in London, which we started out we started out doing a couple of floors. We've got another couple of floors to do. We're hopefully doing all the mains and all the buzz bars and everything in there as well, because end of life expectancy and stuff. So projects like that are good and they're fun and they're interesting to design, because you're trying to design it as an empty shell, sizing all the supplies and all the buzz bars for when a 9-floor building, for example, is then going to be occupied fully by companies that you don't even know who they are yet. And you're trying to build the right capacity and the right design and the right finish. And I love the part of the industry that I work in, because you go, well, it's a fit out, but you're potentially fitting out for a landlord who there's a balance in of how much money they spend and how much you design, because when a tenant moves in, they're going to change it to how they want their offices to look, but it has to look nice enough that the floor can be rented or sold depending on what you're doing. Or you've got somebody who's moving in and they're looking to spend a fair chunk of money, and they want that to be the nice place to work for all of their team, all of their staff and everything. And it's a responsibility to take that on. And it's nice to see some of these places come to life where it literally might be an empty shell when you walk in, and at the end of it, you see it as a finished article where people are occupying it. And it's a nice journey on design. It's like when you do your first consumer unit and you see it all nicely wired at the end, and you've done that sort of thing. But the irony with a lot of my job is I design it at the start. I never see it finished because I'm designing the next one at the next start. So it's I just go around London going, we've done that building, we've done that building, we've done that building.
No, it's good to hear that you're busy, and you must be growing as a business. I assume you've got some more help on the design side than maybe when we last spoke, which is, I'm sure, freeing up more of your time, because I know you've been absolutely snowed under through the winter. So hopefully the pressure's off you a little bit that side now.
Well, the problem is, and you guys will know this with business, the more you take people on, the more you just naturally seem to grow. It's like you almost can then take the extra capacity, isn't it? But working life is good. Like, I work for a company who look after me and they value me, and I think that's something that, especially with apprentices and stuff, they should look for, because you might chase the extra £5 a day, but it might not be worth it at the end of the day once you see what you go and join, because, to be honest, not all companies are equal at the end of the day. So I'm fortunate. I get to do things like today. I worked from home and I took my daughter to preschool on one of her first days at preschool, and pick her up and do the important things while still getting the job done and being busy. So it's good. It's a nice place. And that makes you want to work harder. It makes you want to do better. Once you want to do more, so that you can make that, come to life. But yeah, it's positive. We're doing well. You say we've got another designer in now. We've got another QS. We've got our CAD team. I just do a little bit of all of it and pretend I can do none of it well and see how well we get on and just
I think
flag life.
You're it there, mate. And that leads me towards something that we might have to cut out of this podcast, because I don't know if you want to talk about it or can, but that was your nomination through the IET for the award that you never ended up winning, but Jesus, mate, you got damn.
Yeah, I don't know what. It came out of nowhere, to be honest. So I got an email of the IET chasing up why I hadn't responded to another email of the IET, which I had assumed was just a spam email, when you don't really pay attention to what's coming in, saying that I'd been nominated for the Baroness Platter Whittle Award. And I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of it. I wasn't aware of what it was. But it was anybody who'd been incorporated as an engineer the year before, across any sort of engineering discipline, so not just electrical or what have you. It was just engineering as a general thing. And of the IET, I was one of the people selected by the IET, and it was purely done on your application and work that you do in an industry based on when you apply to be an incorporated engineer. So I got down to being one of the last couple of people nominated from the IET themselves. I don't know how many people they start with and what that whittles down to, but I think they put a couple of us forwards to basically be the IET's representation, and all the other engineering disciplines do the same, and then it goes to the Worshipful Committee of Engineers, I think it is, and they basically the Engineering Council for all engineering practices, and they then look at the applications they've had forwards from each of the disciplines, and then they invite, I think it was four of us got invited for interview, and then you present why you think you should win the award and what you've been doing as an engineer and this, that, the other. And then, they pick a winner. I don't know who the winner is. I know it's not me, because I received a letter sort of thanking me for my application and sort of congratulating me on, I think they said there's 76 engineering disciplines, and all of those 76 engineering organisations, if you like, put candidates forwards, and I'd been down to the last, I don't know if I was fourth, third, second, we don't know. All the letter says that the winner will be announced on an awards dinner, which I'm gutted I don't get to go to, because a free meal is all I look for in life. But yeah, it came out of nowhere. It was an honour to be nominated. It wasn't that any friends in industry or anything have nominated me. It's literally this team of people at the IET reviewed all the applications, and mine was put forward. So yeah, and it's an honour and a privilege, and I didn't get there, but I'm still, they told me at my interview, I think they said it starts with something like over 400 applications, and I got down to the last 4. So from that point of view, I can't be sad about not getting there, if you know what I mean. And congratulations to whoever the winner is. I'm sure we'll find out in a couple of months after the awards dinner and once it's all been released. But yeah,
that's incredible. I mean, even getting your iEng is hard enough work, but going through all of that as well to get down to the last 4, fair play, mate. I think you're underselling it there. That's a pretty epic achievement. There won't be many people going through their careers have things like that happen to them. So yeah, full credit to you. And it's a shame you didn't get the actual winner's medal, but going as far as you have there, that's something else. So very well done.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, and appreciate your help and the presentation. But it was strange. You go into London, you go to the head office, you go into like the engineering council, and there's a lot of clever people by the looks of it sat around in there. And I was interviewed by the man who invented GPS, the man who was a rocket scientist, the Baroness of Platt's granddaughter, and then a lady who was one of the chief technical people at Ford. So you sat in a room where I definitely shouldn't have been sat at that table. But it was interesting nonetheless.
Nah, I think you were right in the right place there, mate. You should have imparted some wisdom onto them. I reckon you could get rockets up to Mars, no problem. So that's a great achievement, mate. So very, very well done. And hopefully there'll be other chances in the future for some other awards. You need to get yourself forward in that ECN awards, because I've heard some other judges. We can be swayed. We can be swayed, can't we, Rich?
Well, and we got little Chris Horn. He's one of the judges again this year. So there's always a way. There's always a way. If the bar's open,
Problem is, I've seen how much Richard drinks. I can't afford that.
None of us can afford that. None of us can afford that.
No, I'm looking forward to being at the ECN again this year. They're always a good night, aren't they? In fairness to them, I see they're starting to gear up to it, and they always do well. I'm looking forward to how they beat the Entertainment this year, because that will be
I smashed it out of the park last year, didn't I? The magicians and that walking around, that was really good to start with. That fork that he bent and all that was incredible. And then like E17, that just smashed it. It wasn't expected, but I had such a good night. And I was still dancing at whatever time it was with Steve from Napier. And then all the lights come on. And I thought, what's going on here? It just went so quick. Such a good night. Brilliant, and Gaz and all that. It was really good. Looking forward to the next one, yeah.
There's a lot of clever people in that room on those nights, and do you know what's nice about it? There's no arrogance. Everybody's just talking nicely about everything. You've got mixer industry bodies, you've got tables. It's good fun. It's good, honest fun.
Yeah, well, we'll be there again, and we've got some of the trade shows as well. I don't know if either of you guys are getting out to. I know Richard said he's maybe going to be missing a few. We've got CEF Live coming up at the start of June, I think early on in June, and then there's the Installer Show again at the end of June-ish. They're both at the NEC. And we've got Alex Harrogate that's coming up. I think that's like 2-3 weeks from where we are now. So I'm going to be at that one. There's ample opportunity for everyone to get out and meet in the real world. If either of you two are popping along, it'd be good to catch up with you.
Well, I'm going to, me and the whole company, to be fair, we're going to CF Live, because we use CF quite a lot. So we've been given a bus to put on to take us up and back there. So that'll be an enjoyable day. And then Installer Show, I'm actually sitting on a panel for one of the conversations.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which I genuinely forgot about until I got an email today saying just confirming your availability. But that's on the 24th and 25th of June, I think it is, because the 24th is when I've got to go and sit there about adult trainees. I think is a panel I'm joining for questions and nominees.
Oh, yes.
Want to talk about different things, which I think is fully your fault, Mark, although you're pretending that you don't know.
No, that's right. I think I'd forgotten about that one. So I think I'm on the same talk just before you, actually. Yeah, no, it should be a good one. I love going along to those kind of things and seeing what's going on out there in industry and catching up with people. There is the Installer Social as well, so I'm assuming Rich will be DJing that one, but they're having a massive...
I'm DJ, mate, if you're dancing.
There's a massive party in the Wetherspoons at the NEC. I think it's on the Wednesday night of when that show's on. I think they used to go off into Birmingham somewhere and doing it, but they're doing it actually in the NEC this time. Okay. And they told me there's entertainment and a DJ, and I just assumed it was you.
Well, have we not given the exclusive that after seeing E17 last year, Richard and Dave made ESF 18, and that's when you coming up good?
They absolutely should do. They absolutely should do. So yeah, there's a lot for us to look forward to, and we need to get together in the place I'm sat as well, which we've saved towards the end of this podcast, because we've got a one-to-one training centre that's going to be fully accredited. So we're working on that at the minute. I've been busy, as Richard keeps taking the mick of me for magnolia painting everywhere. The reason with magnolia is all the walls were already magnolia, and it's forgiving. You can just patch in and no one would ever know. So we've not had to fully repaint the whole thing, but Jesus Christ, we've gone through some tubs of paint. We've just been fitting out downstairs with lots of inverters. So we've invested quite a lot of money in buying kit from different manufacturers that we're going to have here. We're going to have roof that's actually 8 panels, I think we're putting on it, that people can work on and stack out systems in different layouts. All the kind of questions that you'd maybe have that you wouldn't get in traditional training. We're going to try and cover as much of that off as we can, alongside doing some of the training in more traditional aims, so around regs and testing inspection. And Craig's helping with lots of that in the background as well, because I wouldn't know where to start with much of this. So cheers very much on that one, Craig. And hopefully, I reckon come August, September, we might be about ready to take some people through their training with us, which I think is kind of cool.
Excellent, yeah. Congrats, mate. Congrats.
Yeah, you've done well.
Yeah,
and we want to get you guys in from in your own capacities to come in and take a look about and help us out, because we need all the help we can get. And also with your ESF hats on as well. I think said privately, but there's open doors here. If this facility is any use to you guys, you can use it for free whenever you want. And I've said the same to NAPIT and the NIC and the ECA. So it's a resource people can come and make use of. That's the idea of it. And it's a lot bigger than the space we had before. So hopefully it's of some productive value. We'll see.
Well, I think you should just put a day on where everybody comes up and then we all just chip in, because everyone's so busy, aren't they? That you just go, well, right, on this day, come up, let's all just bring our tool bags. I have to get the dust off mine, but, we bring the tool bag. And they still use wooden hammers in your bag, Richard, or...
mine's to the glass hammer, mate.
It's just a beer coaster he's got in his tool bag. That's all he's got in there now.
That'd be really good. A bit similar to the little workshop we did at the other place, where we had a little bit of safe isolation going on, or there was a bit of conduit going on, wasn't there? Measuring, marking out, bending. There was all sorts of stuff. Jamie was doing a bit yourself. It was good. That was Tim Benstead came, didn't he? And spoke a little bit about JPL and the committees and stuff. Like, I suppose you could structure something together. Yeah, brilliant. Get some learners there, whatever. Brilliant. Yeah,
we're going to try and do something like that as sort of a launch event and have a few get-togethers. We've got Darren Stanithers coming up the week of Elex, because he's going up to Harrogate anyway, so he's going to pop in from CEF. So we'll see what he's been up to. But yeah, we will get organised. We're still very much in the tidying up and making it right. We only officially moved in today, but although we've been in a couple of weeks in the background. But yeah, it's exciting, and all of the work we've been doing through the podcast and other bits and pieces have led towards here. So we'll see where it ends up.
Yeah, exciting times. Really exciting.
Then I think we were going to finish on Richard was going to spill all the Amendment 4 changes, wasn't he? So
what's actually been agreed, Richard? You got any intel for us?
Nobody knows.
Yeah, of course.
I'm looking forward to that.
We'll know soon when the new coloured book comes out next year. So
is it going to be pink?
No.
Damn it.
Not pink, unfortunately. So Darren's going to miss out there, but not pink. But an interesting colour, but I won't say too much. But
multicoloured.
Yeah, but again, that'll make all the shows next year will be rammed. So all the Alexis and everything, because it'll all be all the main changes, won't it? What does it mean for a designer? What does it mean for an installer? What does it mean if you're verifying that installation or whatever? So, and it will change. I suppose the program will change on learning programs for apprentices, because obviously there'll be a new book or a new version of the book. So unfortunately, it'll be another £80, £85 to spend, won't it? I'd imagine they'll either update the qualification 2382, whatever it is for the regs, or it'll be a new one. I don't know whether it'll be just an update course or will it be a complete new course. I'm not sure.
If you were following the trend, I would say that generally it would be an update.
Yeah.
And then when the 19th comes out, that would be the one we all have to do.
Yeah.
But because I'm childish,
yes,
and I like to win, I am hopefully studying already to make everyone in my company have to do the update course, just so I can hopefully get the highest score. Just saying, just got to be childish.
And if you think about it, the 18th came out in 2018, so next year you'll be 8 years. So me and Dave have both agreed that we'll, as you quite rightly say, we'll go and do the update, whatever it may be, learning on that, and we'll probably just do the exam, to be fair. But it'll be who gets the high score with me and Dave again, I've no doubt. And I won't really mess with him because he'll just put me in a headlock and snap my neck. So I'll probably get a few wrong just on purpose.
Well, I've already been helping Matty in the background because he's having to beat Mark.
He's determined to do that one. And he will do as well. I know he will. But yeah, I wonder if they will, because it is quite a lot of changes, isn't there? I wonder if it will be a bit different to when it's a normal amendment. And you're right, it's just an update kind of situation. You don't necessarily have to do it in terms of returning your CPS membership and your GIB cards and such. But I wonder, because it is quite a lot, if that might be different this time. It does feel more like a new edition of the regs than an amendment, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, there's a new chapter, isn't there? And a few other bits. There's quite a lot of information going in there, and some clarification on a few bits, because sometimes it does need clarifying where it's not quite worded correctly, and and they do a fantastic job, everyone that's involved in putting that document together, but it can be a bit difficult to understand in certain areas. So I know that they've been working on trying to reword it in certain areas. I won't be able to do all of it because it takes such a long cycle, and every time there's a change or an amendment, they aim to go back and change bits or whatever. But be interesting. Yeah, there's going to be quite a lot, but again, that's why all the ELEX events and everything next year will all be busy throughout the country, because you'll have all the various organisations presenting on some of the changes and what they mean and all the rest of it. And certainly we'll be there, I think, next year as well, talking about any changes that affect safety generally. So yeah, it would be quite good. Looking forward to that next year. It'll be busy.
You'll be busy. You'll be very busy, won't you? And is what's the timeline on that? Because I've forgotten since the draft for public comment came out. Is it due to come in? Is it March?
June 26th, January 26th, I think, something like that. I think it was January 26th.
Okay.
Yeah, I think publishing is in April.
Right. I knew we'd get some info out of him, Craig. We set him up well there, so it's coming out after April.
But I think what's hard, isn't it, is that there is going to be a lot of information, but there's a fine balance for everybody as well, isn't there, between making everybody go and do a new qualification? Because if you arguably and I have no inside information, just to be clear, so looking at this from an opinion piece, if you make everybody do it in 2026, and then you potentially release a 19th edition in 2028, because that would be 10 years. And if you look at the history of the regs, it's generally every 10 years we get a new edition.
Yeah.
Kind of making everyone do it in 2026, say, and then make everyone do it again in 2028. I don't know if there would be a bit of a kickback from industry about that or not, because we all didn't expect Amendment 4, did we? We all thought Amendment 3 stereotypically, and then it would be a 19th. And I understand why they're doing it, and I agree with why they're doing it, because so much has changed in industry, even in the last 2 or 3 years, never mind the last 8 to 10 years. But yeah, I think it's going to be a fine line, that one, as to how you walk that from not everybody's sad enough like us to want to be looking at the book in that level and be doing an exam every couple of years. And
I don't think I'm late to the exam. As Mark says, I think it will just be proving that you've undertook, whether it's via several webinars or you've been, to ELEX or something, and you've undertook that additional learning. And, the likes of the NIC and NAPIT, etc., will all be doing various webinars, I've no doubt, on the main changes and things like that. There'll be lots of stuff freely available. Gaz and eFix will probably do some stuff. There'll be loads of stuff out there. And it will be in everyone's interest to keep themselves up to date, specifically in areas that you are designing and installing. So, for instance, if there is a new chapter on batteries and all the rest of it, then Mark will be one of the first people to get himself involved with that, because, that's what was announced that may be coming in. And if it does come in, then you're going to need to keep yourself up to date, aren't you, with what the recommendations are, or requirements, or either or. So, yeah.
And it was an interesting read of that in the draft for public comment, because you're not saying anything that wasn't put out for draft. No. I find it hard walking down Sainsbury's now, knowing what battery to pick and what cells to go with, but it's going to be an area that we have to develop. And I listened to something not long ago, and I can't remember who it was, so apologies, but it might have been on your podcast, actually, Mark. I think it was Paul Collins said it, and it was like, battery technology is not new technology to us. UPSs and things have been out in the commercial world for an awfully long time. It's just becoming more people facing, I think, if you like, or coming into people's homes more, so it's becoming a new topic. But it's not there is new technology out there, but a lot of the fundamental principles would still be relatively the same, and it's just how we add that to the complexities of them being people's houses rather than being, a 20-story high commercial office block, for example, where it's maybe buried in the basement with fireproof situations. It means it's not a risk, but it's going to be interesting to see how the regs develop to support that element of that information, definitely.
It's such a hard thing, isn't it, to keep on top of any iteration of electrical industry rewiring reg upgrades have been difficult, but now when you're looking at all this stuff that's been pumped out left, right, and centre in all these different areas, it's so tricky. So you can see why that you end up with these lags of regulations behind where industry sits. It's an impossible task. But all you can do is try your best, and it's good to know that that's what you guys and girls on those committees are doing. We've covered that before on the podcast, and hopefully you've finally worked your way through all the comments that came back on the draft for public comment period, because I think they just keep going up and up every time you ask for that. So it's a hard task, and I'm sure we'll get a good version of the regs again. I actually thought the last version of the regs was pretty decent. I think there was some good positive moves in that, and I think we'll probably see the same again this time, and we'll discuss it on our podcast when and if that comes out. We can get the inside scoop from you, Rich, on what all these changes mean, and you know how that works for trainees and apprentices and experienced electricians as alike.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, look forward to that.
Is there anything else either of you two want to add before we wrap this one up for today?
No, I think it's been good to catch up. I appreciate the time, gents. Sorry it's been so long to everyone. And we will hopefully get into some topics, because we are spending some time in rabbit holes looking at different scenarios at the minute, and it'll be interesting to share some of them for opinions and discussions and topics as we go over, and hopefully we can do it a bit more regularly now that things are maybe calming down after all the periods we've just had.
Yeah, for sure. And then if any learners or apprentices are out there struggling with any of the units or any elements of their training and stuff, drop some comments in, and it could be a starting point in the next podcast to talk about anything that you're struggling with or not sure about, etc. Because qualifications, when the regs changes, they'll be updated, I've no doubt, as well. And just to see, get a heads up as to what's going out there, because I've been out the teaching and learning now for a couple of years already. And when you're not in it, it's difficult to get your head into what's currently going on and what they're finding difficult, or what they're struggling with, or what they need more help with and stuff like that. So that might be a starter to look at some other stuff on the podcast. So good.
Absolutely. We can certainly delve into those subject areas, and we can visit Craig's LinkedIn post, because that was quite interesting around the RCD protection on those socket boxes. I thought that was really, really interesting, and I watched some of the comments coming back, and it was there's an angle for discussion in there, so we can come back to that. And equally, again, having seen with the kind of budget changes finally biting now, there's lots of posts flying around on LinkedIn in a minute where people really struggling to employ apprentices again. So we're kind of back in those areas of encouraging training people to solve this kind of skills crisis, and it's just been made ever more tricky. So we're going to delve into those rabbit holes as well. I just want to thank you both for coming on to have a chat, and to say to anyone who is listening along, if you've got any questions, comments, drop them in as always alongside where you're watching this. And now I've got a proper space to record again, because I've been sort of officeless for near enough a month. But the guys are available for more conversations. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.
See you soon, guys.
Thanks, Bowie.